This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Leagues Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here. This is the game preview, or game day preview, whichever you want to call it, podcast of the round 26 game between the Warriors and the Parramatta Eels over there in New Zealand at Go Media Stadium. It is on at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. for the locals over there in New Zealand. Only two more games to go for the Parramatta Eels. The Warriors, they will of course play finals. They find themselves in fourth position on the ladder on 34 points. They will want to get this win to just hold those Broncos and Sharks at bay in terms of getting into that top four. Because as we know, their top four is where you want to be to win this competition, because no team outside the top four has won the premiership. The Eels, they find themselves in 14th spot on the ladder, 22 points, with the Rabbitohs and also the Dragons as well. So, chance for them to jump up the ladder a little bit, depending on results this weekend. The Cowboys take on the Broncos and the Dragons take on the Sea Eagles. They are also, the Cowboys on 23 points, the Dragons on 22 points. So, Parramatta could potentially jump those two sides if they get a victory against the Warriors. And look, if it's a big victory, they may even jump the West Tigers, who play the Raiders down in Canberra. They are in that 11th spot on the ladder. So that's just a couple of the scenarios that these two sides find themselves in terms of winning and losing. Now, as you all know, I love to go through some stats of these two sides, go down memory lane, you could say. And so we will do that right now. And it head-to-head from 1995 to 2024, in total there have been 45 games with the Parramatta Eels holding the ascendancy, 26 wins to the Warriors 19. Now, because this game is played over at Go Media Stadium in New Zealand, they have been playing there since 1996 to 2024. There have been 19 games played there. The Warriors, they hold the advantage, 12 wins to Parramatta's 7 wins. However, the last time they played there was last year, and the time before that was 2017. So a long time before between drinks playing in New Zealand. So the second year in a row this year that they are playing in New Zealand. So last year it was a victory to the Eels, 30 points to 20. And we'll go through that game a little bit later. But as I said, the time before that was 2017, and their time before that, 2016. So, look, Parramatta have won 2 out of the last 3 games at Mount Smart Stadium, as I like to call it, growing up watching rugby league. But it is now Go Media Stadium. But as I said, there was a big gap between those years playing there. Now, also, if we look at the last 10 games played between these two sides, Parramatta hold a little bit of a ascendancy again, you could say, having won 7 out of the last 10. Now, the last 10 dates back to 2016, and so you could almost say that Parramatta are a little bit of a bogey side at the moment for the Warriors, you could say. Although in recent years, and I'm talking from 2023 that the Warriors have probably been in a lot better form and finished higher on the ladder than the Eels over the last few years. But 7 out of the last 10 wins for Parramatta between these two sides. So, as I said, you could say it is a little bit of a bogey team, you could say, for the Warriors. Now, players that have played for both clubs, and look, there's some great names here, brings back some great memories. We've got Jason Bell, a 5'8". He was touted as the next Peter Sterling when he began his career at Parramatta. So obviously a lot of pressure under him there. Joe Nalabau played in the 2009 Grand Final. Krisnan Inu as well. What a player Krisnan was. We recently had him on the Talking Para podcast for an interview. So go back and check that one out. A great little interview there with Krisnan. Doing great things over in England at the moment, coaching rugby league. But yeah, he was a favourite there. Jeremy Lattimore, the GOAT, some would say. Todd Lowry, I think he's down at the Melbourne Storm at the moment. PJ Marsh, Suaya Matangi, Feletti Mateo as well. Justin Morgan, who is an assistant coach up at the Cowboys. Wade McKinnon. I always remember Wade scoring a great try for the Warriors. I think it was nearly like a length of the field job. Murata Niokore, who is currently going to be playing in this game on the weekend. Isaiah Papali'i, who is now at the Penrith Panthers, came to Parramatta after playing at the Warriors. John Simon, Matthew Spence, Lee Odenryan, Big Mark Tukey, legend of a bloke he is. Obviously started off at the Crushers, came to Parramatta, went to the Warriors, played in the 2002 Grand Final. Always catch up with Mark when I go up to Queensland, that is for sure. He's a great bloke, Tukes. And as someone reminded me the other day when Parramatta put on their socials about Mark Tukey playing for both clubs, the Tukes chant. Remember that one? Tukes. It was either Tukes or Tukey. I can't remember. But let me know. But it was one of those ones. And then I think it went into Fooey or something like that. But anyway, Mark Tukey played for both clubs. Leo Odenron, I've said here. Michael Witt and Jonathan Wright. If there's any others that you can think of, please let me know. But this is just the list that I'm going off on Rugby League Project. They're the ones that I get all my rugby league stats from on the internet. So good work, guys. Keep it up there. But if you ever need to know any information rugby league-wise, check out Rugby League Project. So some great names there. That have played for both clubs. Now, if we go to memorable games, now I couldn't really think of too many games between these clubs. To be honest, I can't really remember too many games between these two clubs. I remember there's one that keeps on getting played on Foxtel all the time. That was 1996, May 5. New Zealand, or when they were called the Auckland Warriors back in the day, when they first came in the competition, they got the victory. 1995 it was 40 points to 4 at Parramatta Stadium, and the first couple of times that the Auckland Warriors at the time played, they won the first two games between these two clubs. So, but one that does spring to mind is September 9, 2001. Obviously, we remember that year as Parramatta fans. Probably Newcastle fans remember it more. But Parramatta, I think it was the highest ever final score, I think, until 2019 when Parramatta beat the Broncos I think it was 2019 when Parramatta beat the Broncos 58-0. But this game was 56 points to 12. Brett Hodgson got 2 tries, Daniel Wagon 2, Luke Burt, Ian Hindmarsh, Jamie Lyon, Jason Taylor, David Wailecki. Jason Taylor kicked 7 from 8, Luke Burt 3 from 5. So that was a cracking victory, that one. That was a great looking side too. Just unfortunate they couldn't go on and win that competition. But yeah, 2001 there, that game stands out. Another game that stands out for me is 2014. Now, unfortunately, it was not the result that Parramatta fans wanted, or the Parramatta players, because it was 48 points to 0. It was round number 18. 2014. It was played over at this ground here, Mount Smart Stadium. The halftime score was 36-0. But the reason I remember this game, and some of you listeners that are listening may remember this game as well, because you may have had the same thing as what I did. But at the time, Parramatta were jersey. They had the jersey sponsor on the back, Unibet, and obviously the gambling laws over in New Zealand prevent you from advertising gambling companies on jerseys or in sport or whatever like that. So they ran a competition. The club ran a competition to get your nickname in the circles of the jersey of the players, and the players were going to wear them in the game, and then you would get to keep them. I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to receive a phone call, and I remember that when I was talking to the person from the club, they said there's a few numbers left that you can choose from. I can't remember which exact numbers they were, but I do remember number 4 was still available, and that was Willie Tonga's jersey. Now, the memorable thing about that one was Willie was actually captain that day of Parramatta, and I've got some photos up in the Para Cave of him wearing that jersey, and I've got the jersey in the Para Cave. I'll take some pictures and the like, and or maybe a couple of videos, and I'll post them on social media. But it certainly was not a great result, but I remember that one, so that one will always stick in my mind as to a classic game. I think because look, not a lot of people have got their names on the back of a jersey that was played in a game. So luckily my last name fitted into the 6 circles that were on the back of the jersey. So I think one thing I do remember from that game is I think Parramatta got pushed back in a scrum, something fierce in that game. So that was terrible, that part. But not the result that Parramatta wanted. Look, another one that stands out is 2019 at what was called at the time Bankwest Stadium. It is now CommBank Stadium. 24 points to 22. It was round number 19. Mike Acevo scored a try, and one of those tries, I think it was this try, the big fend on the big fend on Blake Ashford, that's the one. Michael was on fire that year. It was a massive fend. I would not be able to be on the field for that one, but he basically sort of pushed him into next week sort of thing. I think Andrew Voss was in commentary at the time, and he couldn't believe it. I can't remember whether that was his try or whether he passed the ball to Brad Takarangi, whether the fend was just before it. Someone will remind me. I'll have to go back and check the footage. Go to YouTube or something like that, and just have a look at it. But that's one that I can remember. And look, I guess last year sticks in the mind as well. Well, 2023 actually stands in the mind, but it was a massive victory to the Warriors, and I think the reason behind that one was, I think this was during the Origin period, and Mitchell Moses was out this game. Regan Campbell-Gillard, I think, was State of Origin as well, and I think maybe Clint Gutherson potentially. So those three players were out due to state of origin at the time. Now, I think this is the game too where there was a little bit of thought. Sean Johnson's wife, was pregnant at the time, and their child was being born. I think it was during the week or on game day or something like that. But I think it got born. It was born before the game, whilst Sean was in New Zealand. In Australia. His wife had the baby. I think that's the way it goes anyway. But there was a little bit of thought that will he play, will he not play because of the birth of his child. But he ended up playing. Ended up being a Sean Johnson masterclass, if my memory serves me right. He kicked 7 out of 8 that day. So that one stands out, and obviously last year's game as well. Parramatta not doing too well. It was always a hard trip over to New Zealand, and to get the victory was great as well. Also, if you want to hear a little funny story about going to New Zealand, then check out the podcast chat I did a few years ago now with Eric Groth Jr. And one of the questions that one of the celebrity listeners sent in to me and to ask Eric, and it was about how he got out of going to New Zealand to play. It is a really funny story. Now, let's go fast forward to 2024, and it is, as I said, 6 p.m. 2025. What am I saying? 2025, 6 p.m. Friday, the 29th of August, round 26. We go through the two sides. Charles Nickel Clockstar, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck are on the wings. Adam Pompey, Rocco Berry, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Tanner Boyd, James Fisher-Harris is the captain. Dimitri Vai-Mauga is the other prop. Wade Egan is back in the hooking position for the Warriors. Kurt Capel, Murata Neokore playing against his old club. Aaron Clark, Tamari Martin, Eddie Eremia Tovia, Tana Stowers Smith, and Laika Halasima. Now, we remember him from scoring that try against Newcastle to win that game. That was a great try, that one. Now, for Parramatta, we have pretty much the same side that played the Roosters and got the victory 30 points to 10. Isaiah Iongi, Zach Lomax, Josh Addo-Carr, and congratulations to Josh Addo-Carr. He will be playing his 200th NRL game. Massive feat. Last week it was Dylan Walker playing his 250th. This week it is Josh Addo-Carr playing his 200th. Will Penasini, Dylan Brown in the centres. Joash Papali, Mitchell Moses is the captain. Jermaine Hopgood and Junior Paolo are the front rowers. Riley Smith, Kelma Tuolangi, Jack Williams, Dylan Walker, who was playing against his old club. He transferred to Parramatta mid-season. Talon De Silva, Matt Dury, Charlie Geimer, and Jordan Shamrani are on the bench. Sean Russell is the 18th man. So they are the two sides there. And look, there's a lot of talent in the backlines of both these sides. Obviously, you've got the experience of Charles Nickel Clockstar and the young youth of Isaiah Iongi. The wingers for both of these sides are very entertaining. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, he can score some cracking tries in diving for the line. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck as well, premiership winner. We know what he is like as well. But Zach Lomax and Josh Addo-Carr. Josh got 2 tries last week. One of them was a 90-metre intercept, and the other one was a crossfield kick from Dylan Walker. So we know how these wingers are pretty exciting to watch. Look, the halves combination of the Warriors, they will probably have a little bit more experience than the 5'8" Joash Papali, but this will be the third game that he has played with Mitchell Moses in the halves. But once again, Mitchell Moses' kicking game will be very, very important. Now, I think also too, he has a far superior kicking game to the New Zealand halves. That is for sure. So his kicking game will be much important, both his long kicking game and his short kicking game. Look, how about that torpedo kick that he put up last week that James Tedesco all messed up and nearly led to a try? James Fisher-Harris, well, look, he just loves playing against Parramatta. So he's obviously that he hates Para. I think that's what he said when he was at Penrith after they won the grand final. So he'll be fired up. So the battle between him and Junior Paulo will be very interesting, that is for sure. Young gun Riley Smith at hooker and Wade Egan, two exciting hookers to watch. They will be great to see go around. As I mentioned before, Dylan Walker playing his old club. I don't know too much about the Warriors bench. The Eels bench has worked pretty well this season, or especially in the last game anyway. So a few interesting matchups there. As I said, it's going to be exciting matchups between the backs of both of these sides. Some exciting players to watch, that is for sure. But it will be a little bit of a forward battle as well. If your forwards aren't going forward, then your backs can't do the work. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. As for the team stats, as I mentioned before, the last time they played was only last year. They only played once, and it was a 30 points to 20 victory to the Parramatta Eels. Now a completely different looking side that played in that game. There is only two players playing in this game that played in that game. Can you believe that? And those two players were Will Penasini and Dylan Brown as well. Dylan Brown played 5/8 on that night, but Friday night, he will be Will's centre partner. So both of those players in the centres. But look, that lineup was Clint Gutherson, Jake Tungo, Will Penasini, Blaze Talangi, Sean Russell, Dylan Brown, Dijon Archie, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Brendan Hands, Wiramu Greg, Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright, Ryan Madison, Joey Lussick, Joe Offahengawi, Luca Moretti, Dan Keir. So look, a very completely different side to that one. For the Warriors, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, you could count Dylan Walker as well. He played for the Warriors there last year. He's now playing for the Eels. So there's 7, 8, 9 players that played in that game last year that are playing in this game. So, yeah, wow, really interesting little stat there. Now, if we go to the form guide, Parramatta, 3 wins out of the last 5, including that great victory against the Roosters last week, 30 points to 10. The Warriors, 2 wins in a row now, so they are looking for their 3rd victory on the trot. They beat the Titans last week on the Gold Coast, and the Dragons 14 points to 10 at home. 3 consecutive losses before that to the Bulldogs, Dolphins and Titans. When it comes to points scored, well, the Warriors have only scored 59 points more than Parramatta, and points conceded, it is 103 more points conceded from the Eels, which shows you their places on the ladder, with the Warriors in 4th position and Parramatta in 14th. The completion rate, 77% for Parramatta, 81% for the Warriors. Average points scored, 18 for Parramatta, 21 for the Warriors. Average points conceded, 24 for Parramatta, 20 for the Warriors. So really nothing sort of really in that at all. And the average play the ball speed is exactly the same for both teams, 3.55 seconds. So nothing there. So there's a couple of stats from these teams this season. So look, a pretty evenly matched competition. I guess sort of evenly matched teams, you could say. Just the defence of Parramatta, look, which I must admit has improved. Most of those points, those big scores, were early on in the season. So lately, though, the defence has tightened up for Parramatta. That is for sure. 20 points against the Rabbitohs, they let in. 10 against the Roosters, 18 against the Cowboys, only 16 against the Storm, 20 against the Broncos. So their defence has tightened up. When you think that at the round one, I think it was something like over 50 points that the Melbourne Storm scored, and then Canberra up in Darwin scored over 50 as well. So a lot of points scored there. But as I said, their defence has certainly improved of late. So most of those points conceded were early on in the season. So defence has tightened up, which is good. Now, my predictions that I did say on the Talking Para podcast last night. Now, if you are a Parramatta Eels follower, supporter, and you like your Parramatta Eels content as well, you will find me and some others on the Talking Para podcast, 8:15 Facebook Live. You'll also hear the audio version on Spotify as well. So if you want to, follow us on there, please. And look, the predictions I gave there, I think it's going to be a really close game. The Warriors have got a lot to play for, wanting to get that top four finish, so you get two bites at the cherry come finals time. Parramatta, they just want to finish off the season strong. It hasn't been the season that they wanted, obviously. Injuries have played a major part, but they want to finish off the season strong against the Warriors here in New Zealand, and also Newcastle back at home as well. So I've tipped Parramatta for a victory, surprise, surprise, 24 points to 22. Now, I've gone outside the box here. I've gone Junior Paolo as the first try scorer. I do not know what he is paying on the gambling markets, but gamble responsibly. But I just think maybe it could be a little bit of a bang crash over play close to the line that might get the first try. And look, I've given a bold prediction as well of Riley Smith 2 charge downs, because his kick pressure on that fifth tackle on the opposition kickers is unbelievable. He was just everywhere last weekend against the Roosters, and if you watch him, he generally gets in at marker on that fifth tackle and just chase, and tries to hunt down those kickers. And I think he will get 2 charge downs in this game. But look, it's going to be a very interesting game. Look, if you are going over to New Zealand, let me know. I would love to see all your socials and over there in New Zealand. I'll be keeping an eye out for you. I'm sure there is a few Parramatta fans going over. I'm sure there's a few Parramatta fans in New Zealand, to be honest, as well. Look, Warriorholic, if you are listening to this preview, then look, I wish you all the best. May the best team win, and may that be Parramatta. We should have caught up. We did catch up at Magic Round. That was a long time ago. But we should have done a game day preview together. We just didn't get around to it. But looking forward to this game. It's the first game on the Friday night. And look, it is going to be a cracker of a game. The second game on Friday night is the Storm and the Roosters. But this one is more important. It's Parramatta and the Warriors. So, thank you very much for listening to this game preview of the Warriors versus the Eels. Stick with me on the socials, Instagram and Facebook, and you'll get all the update information of the game as well. I may even be doing some Instagram lives during the game as well, halftime, full-time. Maybe even before the game, I don't know. Or maybe even during the game, who knows? We'll have to just wait and see what happens. But give me a follow on Instagram, that would be most appreciated, and Facebook as well. And you will hear this on Apple, Spotify, or any other good podcast platform. Thank you very much for your support. The Paracave Podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! How you going,
Bruss.
mate? Are you a Paracave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a
Okay.
great podcast. Everyone tune in. Bro.
Go Para.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.